All right, welcome. I got a comment that the handout wasn't downloadable or wasn't working. Is that a common problem? Or sometimes individually, here's a link to the handout if you can't download it from GoToWebinar. Otherwise, let me know. All right, well, let's go ahead and let's do this. So this is the beginning of the series that I'm going to do on how to fill out the forms, essentially, how to go, and we're going to start with the purchase contract. I did the residential listing a little while ago, but the purchase contract takes more time. There's a lot more that needs to be done with it. And I have to admit that some of this is self-serving, because I mentor agents and I coach agents. And what oftentimes happens is somebody will say, I need to write an offer. I have no idea what to do. What should I do? And I can refer them to the video. However, even saying that, that could save me time when I'm working with people, I also understand that no matter what I do in advance, I'm going to get calls from people that I'm working with saying, I need to write an offer. And I'm going to say, well, have you watched the video on how to write the offer? And they're going to say, no, I don't have time to watch a video. And then I'll just help them because that's, well, what I'm paid to do, right? To help them and drag them through the process. But just so you understand, if you haven't done anything, right, to your systems and you're going to write an offer right now, it could take an hour just to get everything ready, right? 45 minutes, it could take a long time just to get ready. Now, if everything is done in advance, it takes only about 5 minutes to write an offer, right? And so what I want to go through is what kinds of things you need to do so that when it comes time to write an offer, you can do it, right? Sometimes we're not doing this in front of clients, but you can imagine if somebody was saying, well, let's do it right now. Can you do it right now? Let's write up the offer right now. And you can't write up an offer right now. You can't do it, right? Because you don't know how, you're not set up, you're starting from the 0 point, right? So that's what we're going to try to correct. That's what my goal is, so that you don't have to live like that anymore. Now, one way to make this work a lot smoother is to set up ZipForms, something called MLS Connect and RPA, right? And to integrate those different programs together. Now, I'm going to go through some slides, and the slides you should have a copy of, and there are screenshots, and I'm going to wander in and spend time actually in the software itself in a little bit. So make sure I get this working. So in order to set this up, you're going to need to know your NERDS number, right? Your NRDS number. Have you memorized your NRDS number? I haven't. But so for some people, this is an easier number to remember because it depends on your MLS. And some MLSs, the agent ID to log into the MLS is the NRDS number, which means that you were putting it in probably every time you logged into the MLS. Some people, however, don't ever log into the MLS, so they don't know. I see a hand up, but I'm not too sure if there's a reason. So I'm going to, if you have questions, maybe hang on to them to the end. I'm easily distracted, So you're going to need to find your NRDS number, and you're going to need to connect that to the MLS. In my main MLS, which is MLS listings, we don't use the NRDS number as an agent identifying number. We use the DRE number, right? So that's why I don't know. I know my DRE number, but I don't know the NRDS number. So people are saying the handout link is not working. I've posted in the chat a link to the handout, right? I'm going to post it again. So I can't do anything about it. It was uploaded. I can't do anything about it, but I put in a direct link. I put in the direct link. Anyhow, I'm not going to, it's working now. All right, I don't know. All right, so so anyhow, all right, I think it works now. All right, fine. Some people have, for some reason, this, I don't know. So then, all right, so you're going to need to know your NRDS number. You're going to want to connect MLS. It's called MLS Connect. And you're going to want to activate RPR and connect RPR. And then we're going to talk about getting the template set up so that it doesn't take you very long to write an offer or a listing, and which kinds of templates and what you ought to include in the templates, and even maybe going into checklists, assuming we have the trouble. So if you don't know what your NRDS number is, there are a lot of choices. And I'm seeing questions like, what is RPR, and what, wait until I go through it, and I'll make it very clear what everything stands for. I'm not going to stop every few minutes and answer, administrative or even definitional questions, right? Make a list of your questions, and if I haven't explained it by the end, ask me, right? But I'm not going to be paying much attention to the chat while I'm doing this now so I can get through some of this. So how would you find your NRDS number? There's an easy way to do it. You go to Google and you type in, how do I find my NRDS number, right? By the way, I would say something like 80% of the questions that real estate agents ask me, they would have gotten the answer if they had simply typed it into Google, right? I get that. Where do I find free clip art that I can use on my website? Gee, I don't know. Why don't you go to Google and type in, how do I find free clip art that I could use on my website? So this actually is one of Google's pop-ups, right? Because they get asked this question so many times, they've already figured out the answer. Now, first of all, if you have your Realtor magazine, right, which you're supposed to, you get every month and you're supposed to be reading it, right? There'll be quizzes later. It's on the label. Some of you are saying, I don't have the magazine. Well, I'm sure you're all carrying a membership identification card, aren't you? For the National Association of Realtors. Everybody have their, no one has the card? No, really? So you don't have your copy of Realtor magazine. You didn't even know maybe that there even was the potential to have an NAR ID card. So what else could you do? Notice the link. It says there's an NRDS lookup tool. And if you click on finding your NRDS ID number, what you're going to see is, first of all, I've already covered this. This is the card. And then notice there's a little tool. And the tool, when you click on it, by the way, this would be a hyperlink if it weren't a screenshot. It's going to give you this screen. Now, you need to be able to answer one of these two questions. You either need to know your last name and the email that you use to register for the California Association of Realtors. I have many people say I have like 8 emails and I don't know which email I use to register for the California Association of Realtors. Do they send you emails all the time? They send me emails. You might want to look and see what email they're sending it to, but let's say that's too much. Do you know your Department of Real Estate license number? Hopefully the answer is yes. So you could enter your last name, your last name, your DRE number, and then it takes you to this screen where you type in your last name and you type in your Department of Real Estate number. And what you're going to get is a screen that looks like this. Now that's my NRDS number. So if you're copying it down because you're planning on using it when you get to the MLS, it's not going to work, right? It's my number. Your number will be different. You're going to need to copy that. Now, if you are doing this like right now with your computer, you want that number in the clipboard of your computer because we're going to be pasting it in more than a couple of times in order to get through the entire setup. So MLS Connect and RPR. RPR stands for the Realtors Property Resource, which is something you get as a member. And now I'm using MLS listings because that's my MLS. I know that Bridge MLS and the Barris MLS and SFAR MLS And MetroList, those are names of other MLSs in Northern California. They all have an MLS Connect link someplace, right? Now, the way we do it in MLS listings is when you log into the MLS, you'll notice that there's a button that says My Info. Is anybody else having trouble with my audio? Is anybody having trouble hearing me? Other than I'm getting one person saying they're having trouble. Anybody else? No, everybody else is saying no. Just because the audio is bad or isn't always because there's something I can do about it. Everybody else is fine. So I'm not, this will be recorded. If you don't like the audio and you're having trouble following along, wait for the recording, right? You can turn it up, right? So anyhow, if I were going to do this in my MLS, which is MLS listings, I would go to My Info. Now, that's probably a little bit different in Bridge. Bridge is the MLS for Alameda County because they use the NRDS number, but you're going to have to ask them. Once I log in, oops, let me do this. Once I log in to, I've marked My Info, right? I clicked on My Info, marked it, I highlighted it, I selected it, and then go down here where it says Business Info, Edit. And what we're looking at is an NRDS number there. Now, if you're like many agents that I've worked with in MLS listings, when you log in and you go to My Info and you look at Business Info, your NRDS number is not there, right? Because it doesn't automatically get put in. So if we've copied our NRDS number because we looked it up and we're ready now, we paste it in here and then we save it. Actually, we paste it in here and then it goes to, that's what it looks like. And then we hit save, right? You might want to make sure this is a older version of this. And you just paste it in and then you hit save. And now we've done it, right? Now we've done it. We've put in our NRDS number and we've hit save, right? Now the next thing is RPR. Now, again, the interface will look a little bit different if you're in Bridge MLS or SFAR, San Francisco Association MLS, or Barris, which is the MLS in Contra Costa and Solano County and Sonoma County, and MetroList. It looks a little bit different, but when you log in, someplace it says RPR, right? The Realtors Property Resource. Now, we want to set that up. If you click on that link, right, and this is the first time you've ever gone to RPR, it's going to give you a screen that looks like this. And if you've never logged in before, you're going to click where that little red thing is that says create a new account. And in order to create a new account of RPR, guess what number you're going to need to do it? Very good, it's your NRDS number, right? So we've pasted it once into the MLS if it's not there. We're now going to RPR and we're pasting it in where it says, please set up your account. And then it's going to ask us, what is your name and what is your email, and you create a password, and they have some suggestions about the password. Hopefully you guys will be able to get through that. And then it's going to want to know, what is your MLS? Right, that's the next screen once you're in RPR. Trust me, there's a big payoff to connecting the Realtors Property Resource to your ZipForms or the account that we use to write offers, which is now also known as LoneWolf Technologies. We're going to look at that. So you click on the state, California, scroll down to find your MLS, right? You can see they're all there. But there's the one I'm in, MLS listings. You select your MLS and you save it and you're done, right? So now we've put in our information, in our NRDS information into the MLS. We've put our we've activated the RPR by putting in our NRDS information, and now we're ready. We're warming up, right? We're warming up. So if you've never logged into the California Association of Realtors website, welcome. You go to car.org. Before somebody asks me, you have to be a member of the Association of Realtors to do any of this and to be in the MLS. If you've never done this before, you click on the new to CAR, register, and guess what number they want to know for you to set up your car.org account, your NRDS number, right? So if you've got that in the clipboard, you're pasting it in, putting in your last name. They want you to verify your email. You click on that, they send you a code, you copy the code. Hopefully you're all familiar with this kind of process. Whoops. And so now you can log in. Now, what I'm going to do, it looks a little bit different from this, but not significantly so. So let me just see how much of this do I want to. All right. So what I want to do, and I've given you a handout so that you can sort of follow along, but it looks a teensy bit different. So what I want to do is to, well, maybe log in and show you what it looks like now. So you go to car.org, sign in. By the way, I use software that remembers and manages passwords, right? It does it on multiple computers, and it even works on my cell phone. The reason I mention that is many times when I've been helping an agent do something, I've sat around for 20 minutes while they struggle to log in to the website that we need to log into for us to do anything, right? I'm just saying that this is why, you know, I'm usually heavily medicated, because I have to put up with that like on a somewhat regular basis. So there's a lot of passwords, a lot of websites that you're going to need. I use a program called LastPass, LASTPASS. If you don't know, if Google search password programs and you could find one, but notice I don't have to think about it. And by the way, even if this was a new computer and I logged into LastPass, it would be plugging it in. Now, one of the changes is this little bubble here. If you'll see in the slide, it said ZipForms. Now they've added stuff to it. And so it says transactions and realtor secure transactions. That's where we're going to click in order to get going. Now, I'm going to do a class on what is Glide, right? Glide is a very useful program, particularly useful for filling out certain kinds of disclosures, particularly the TDS, the transfer disclosure statement, the SPQ. That'll be another class. There are these other transaction tools. The one we want here is transactions ZipForms, also now known as LoneWolf, right? They've changed their name, but we know it affectionately as ZipForms. We're going to click on Access ZipForms. And then this screen always appears. It takes a moment. We click on Continue. Right? Now, what I want to do, just so you get an idea of why we've done what we've done, is I'm going to log into the MLS quickly, right? And let me log into the MLS quickly. And I'm going to demonstrate why we've gone through all this. We're going to do a quick search. And let's say I'm looking for something active, a single family home that was listed in the last 7 days in Morgan Hill and Gilroy. That's where I am right now. So I figured, why not? Let me just pick one. Here's a nice little house on Rockwood Ranch. A nice home, I think, for a first-time home buyer, right? Maybe this would be a good one. It's only $3,345,000. It looks like a steal. So let's say you have a buyer that wants to buy this house, and you're looking at it on the MLS, and you're now going to write an offer on the property. What we want to do is we're going to copy that MLS number. right? We're going to copy, including the ML part. Now, by the way, MLS Connect only works on properties that are in your MLS, right? Only works on properties that are in your MLS. And if you're in MLS listings, it has to have an ML number. If you're in Bay East territory, the bridge, it'll say BE. If you're in MetroList territory, it's going to say ME. If you're in Barris, these are names of MLS's territory, it's going to say BA, right? And I'll show you what we do when we're writing an offer that's not in our MLS, but first we're going to assume you're selling a home in your MLS. So we've copied that MLS number. Now, the reason we did that is now that we're here into ZipForms, I'm going to use it in a few minutes to demonstrate how MLS Connect works. Now, if you've logged in and you look up, I don't know, sometimes the picture shows, sometimes it doesn't. It doesn't actually show on anything. But if you're a typical real estate agent and you want your picture, you want to see your picture as often as you can possibly see your picture, right? Isn't that right? You want your picture, you want to see a big picture. And so how about that? All right, so I've added a picture. There's information about an office. And the first thing you want to do is go to Profile and Settings. There's my picture. And notice these tabs across the top, all right? You should look at them. Make sure name, email address, phone number, your license number. I don't have a fax, we don't really do that. Email signature, you click on that and I copied and paste this from my normal email signature, but this will be put on all of on emails that go out, all the outbound notifications, it'll show your email signature. You can put in links, you can put in pictures. You can do all that, right? So let's assume you've looked at that, you like it, so we save it. We're just going to close because I didn't do anything. Back here, Profile and Settings. Closed it a little too quickly. Sign in and security. There's not a lot here. You can just check it. Offices, let's say you've changed offices, right? You could type in the name of the office. You can change it just by typing it in. Oops, I'll eventually figure out how not to do that. And then forms, now you're going to have a bunch of these as well. I don't bother to change any of these things. It doesn't seem likely. Products, I don't really spend any time on that. Settings, one of the things that we might want to look at is, first of all, the ESignature program. Now, I've been using digital ink because I'm an old guy and digital ink has been around a long time, 1.0, but I'm going to click on the new one, which is AuthentiSign. And these two, and you could have DocuSign. Now, let me just say this. DocuSign costs money, and it is an electronic signature program. It's very nice. But you've already paid for two of them. You can't use them both at the same time, but you could switch back and forth. You've already paid for two of them. And if you're a member of EXP or Keller Williams or any of the companies that use SkySlope, you have access to something else called DigiSign. If you're at one of the offices, Keller Williams or others that use .loop has electronic signing capabilities. So you've got two of them built into the California Association of Realtors ZipForms section. Many of you work at offices that already provide you another one. And so my question is, why are you going to pay $30 or whatever it is now a month for DocuSign? I don't get it, right? Now, some agents, particularly older agents, not that I know much about those people, but sometimes older agents will say, well, DocuSign is way better. It's so much easier to use. You don't want to use the other ones. You ought to use DocuSign. And I would say, being an older agent, that they have not looked at the CAR products probably in a long time. 10 years ago, there was a big difference between DocuSign and digital ink. Now, there really isn't much of a difference, right? And I've been using 1.0, but we'll eventually, we'll do the new one, right? Because I've actually had agents say, oh my gosh, it looks different, I don't know what to do. So that's the new system, and it integrates into ZipForms. We're gonna cover that a little bit later. Now, on this screen, the one thing that I would recommend changing is the default setting for autosave. The least amount of time that you can have is 5 minutes. Notice that's what I picked. What that means is that if I'm wandering around mentally, you know, watching the squirrels or doing whatever, and for some reason the program crashes, every 5 minutes it automatically saves whatever I'm doing. Right, so sometimes writing an offer takes a long time. If you spend a long time writing an offer and you make a mistake and you click on the wrong thing and it's gone and you have to start all over again, it's depressing, right? So that's every 5 minutes it automatically saves. We can import, that's apply broker and agent. I don't know. I generally don't do anything else with that. The notification settings, yeah, I know. Let's go back and save it. Let me go back here. Whatever. So I don't really change any of that. So now let's just assume then you've fixed your profile. You want to make sure you have the right office. If you change offices, it doesn't automatically change. You have to type in the new office. You want to make sure you have an email signature. You want to make sure that it has just that basic information. All right, so this is the dashboard or the navigation bar, which starts with the dashboard. There's forms, there's transactions, there's templates, doc inbox, we'll do that later. Tasks, we're going to kind of do later. It allows you to create a pre-designed checklist so that if you list a home, what do you do in the first week and the second week and the third week, and it can remind you. Contacts, it allows you to import contacts, and you can put in a bunch of, you know, contacts. We're going to talk about the contacts a little bit later, but let's just start at the beginning. Let's begin at the beginning. And once you fixed your profile, the next thing you're going to want to do is create some templates. Now you can see I've created a few of them. I've got some commercial ones and others. Let's start, and we're gonna start from scratch. We're going to start with a new template. So we're going to click on the button that says new. Now, because we're writing an offer today, we're going to assume this is a new offer template. And so I'm going to say this is a demo buyer template, right? A demo buyer template. And it's going to be residential. The forms would be different if they're industrial or multi-unit, or it could be different. Condos, not so much, but anyhow, there could be a difference. It wants to know. Now, it's going to ask me, do I want to automatically apply this template to every new transaction? Well, if you've only got one template and you're only working with buyers, and by the way, it wouldn't apply it to a new listing. Every time you click on a new transaction purchase, it would automatically load the template. If you're a little more complicated and you have multiple kinds of templates and things going on, that's why I don't automatically apply it, because as you saw, mine's a little more complicated. If you're not that complicated, you might say, I want to apply it to all the new ones, whatever. I've already got a bunch of templates, as you could see. We could start by modifying one, but we're not going to do that. We're going to create a new template. So we're going to hit save. And what it should do, there we go, is show us the template. Now, one of the big time-consuming parts of writing an offer is data entry. in multiple places. In the forms that you're going to fill out, it's going to want to know your name, your DRE number, your office name, your office DRE number. It's going to ask for that information over and over and over again. And I watched agents manually typing it in every, I mean, it's just, it takes, this is why it could take an hour or so. So what we want to do is in the template, and one of the easiest way to do this is to click on add a doc, right? Add a doc. And so these are our different choices. We can import the document, but what we're really looking for is a form right now. And we're going to add that form. And the first form that you could use is a cover sheet. Really? Really? And the reason we're using a cover sheet is because when we open the cover sheet, it's going to give us this sort of a blank, you know, cover sheet. Now, in the old days, agents used to fill this out and print it out and staple it to a folder or carry it with them. That's not why we're doing it. And what we want to do is keep scrolling. We don't, a lot of this information is going to be imported, but look at this, buyer's broker information. So this is something we don't want to do all the time. I happen to work for All That and a Bag of Chips Realty. I don't know if you've heard of us. You haven't heard of Bag of Chips Realty. Anyhow, and you can put in the address of the property. Why not, you know? So we're going to just, you know, fill this out. Why not? And then the selling office DRE number. Not really too, how about this? I think it's, I'm just going to pick one. That's not really it. Then telephone number. Buyer's agent name. Way too many names. How about that? I know this number. 00. All right, there we go. Your phone number. Usually, I don't bother putting in the office number. All I do is put in my number, and the last one is email address. Now, obviously, I've got look at all these, way too many email addresses. So now we've filled this out. If you want to put in a fax number, go ahead. I haven't faxed anything or gotten a fax in, you know, in a decade or so. Now, the reason that we're doing this is because we filled this out. Because we filled this out and we're now going to save it, then whenever we launch this template, this information will be automatically populated into the forms. So I don't have to type Bag of Chips Realty. I don't have to type in my name. I don't have to type in the DR. I don't have to do that every time, right? That's going to save me a lot of time. Now, when if you're going to have a listing template, we wouldn't be filling out the buyer broker information. We would be filling out the seller's broker information so that the listing templates would have all that information already filled out. So if you're going to write a listing, you don't have to manually type in everything. I'm lazy, I mean time efficient, and I don't like to have to type in, I just don't like to, right? I don't like to. So we've done a template. We're going to go back. We put in the cover sheet. Now let's talk about adding a doc. If this were a live group, I'm not saying you're not alive, but it's hard for me to tell sometimes. And I would throw this open. We're going to do this sequentially, right? The best way to create a template is to ask yourself, okay, I have a buyer, serious buyer. What's the first form I may be likely to use? What is the first form? Now, if you can think of something, you can chat it in. What would be the first form we would want to use if we were representing a buyer? I see somebody's willing to play. Agency. Yeah, agency is hardwired into the purchase agency agreement. Yeah, that's hardwired. There we go. Elvira Elvira has won the gift card to the dollar store, right? She'll be able to buy anything she wants at the dollar store. So the buyer, it might be a buyer representation agreement, right? Now, there are three kinds. I will do another class on what the differences are. But this would be an agreement, if you're not faint of heart, right? This would be an agreement between you and the buyer as to if you're representing the buyer and it's about being paid. And there's a non-exclusive one, which we would use for an investor. There is another non-exclusive one that we don't use at all because it doesn't mean we get paid. The one most agents would like to use is called the exclusive buyer representation agreement. Right now, we're going to, in another class, go through how to fill out these forms. But if you are going to be working for somebody, wouldn't it be a good idea to have a document that says, I'm working with you? Now, what would be the second form? All right, so we've done a buyer representation agreement. What would be the second form? And I'm going to give you guys a hint. No one has mentioned it yet, right? Because some of you have typed in a bunch of things. I don't want it, you know. RPA, that's been mentioned before. That's not it. Probably not it. All right, it's possible, but not likely. So let's say so now I'm representing a buyer, right? I got one, a live one. He's got money. They're motivated. What am I going to do? Well, I'm going to set him up. I'm going to show him, get him a search. Let's see if we've got the answer. Purchase agreement, not yet, not yet. So now I want to show them a house. What document do I need to show somebody a house? Is there a document that you need to show somebody a house? PED. People are typing in. Very, very good. I would be gone, about $3 worth of gift cards would be gone. So this is called the PEAD form. And before you ask me what is a PEAD form, just wait for it. By the way, I've got a video, I believe so, on my YouTube channel on how to fill out the PEAD form, right? Which, if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, what's wrong with you? I just don't get it. But you might want to do that. But we're going to click on add a document, and we're going to type in the PEAD form. Wow, there's a bunch of them. Now, the one we want is the form, and sometimes it's hard to tell. This is seller occupant. That's the one we use for the listing. This is called the PEAD. That's another seller occupant one. Here it is. We want the PEAD-V form, right? The PEAD-V form. Now, sometimes I've just created, and I'll show you in my templates, a PEAD thing, right? Just a PEAD form, because because we do it all the time. Can you please share the link to your YouTube channel? My YouTube channel, I'm not going to do that right now. My YouTube channel is Upthink Real Estate. Upthink Real Estate, UPTHINK Real Estate, right? And so we've got a PEAD form. So the PEAD form, the PEAD-V form, is a form that we have to fill out before we're allowed to show property. We're probably going to have to show somebody a house before we're going to write an offer. Probably, right? I'm going to go out on a limb. We may have to show them a house before we're going to write an offer. All right, so we've got the buyer representation agreement. We've got the PEAD form, because we're probably going to need that. Now, now we're probably getting ready to put in the residential purchase agreement, right? Which is up near the top because it's used so much. So we're going to click on that. Now, there are different options. Your office undoubtedly has a list of all the documents that you're supposed to need when you're representing a buyer. I know some agents go through and they add all of those documents, the statewide buyer and seller advisory, the market conditions advisory, they add all of those documents to their template. The downside of that strategy is a lot of times when you're writing an offer, the listing agent has already gotten those documents filled out, right? Which means you're not writing most of the time as a buyer's agent. We do not write up the statewide buyer and seller advisory, the listing agent does. We may not even do the market conditions advisory, the listing agent does, right? So you need to know the list that your office wants of the documents when you're buying a house, and then compare that to the documents that the listing agent has given you and add in the ones that are not on that list. So we're not going to do all of that now, right? So, and we can kind of stop here for now. Why not? We're going to stop here and we're going to go. We've created a demo buyer template. All right, cool. Now you can see I've got a lot of templates. I've got a lot of templates. All right, it's time to write the offer, right? Isn't that nice? Time to write the offer. So on this, and by the way, there's a lot of videos. LoneWolf, which is also known as ZipForms, has a YouTube channel. This isn't secret information, but you ought to, and every week they have classes on how to use their software. You ought to learn to use the software. Does everybody realize, I was having this conversation where somebody's saying, could you print out PED forms so that we could have them at the listing, right? Can we do that? The answer is no, you can't do that, right? Because under the current rules with COVID-19, you're not supposed to have paper. Now you're supposed to have flyers in the listing. You're not supposed to have the PED forms in the listings. You understand, we don't print out paper contracts anymore. I know brokers, and some of them aren't as old as I am, and they haven't been in real estate as long as me, and I don't understand, but they still have paper files, right? They print out everything and they put it in the, print the 2 holes and stick it in, and I just don't get that, right? I don't get that, right? We don't do that. We use electronic signatures and we store things electronically, and we just don't able. Now, I'm getting, again, I can't download the handout. If you look in the chat, you'll see I have twice pasted the link to the handout. And by the way, if you're in my coaching program, which Elvira, who just asked, this is in the document library, right? So I'm not going to spend any more time on the handout, all right? So let's say we actually have a transaction. So remember this beautiful, right, the starter home in Morgan Hill on Rockwood Ranch, right? Nice view, you know, of the lake and all that, really nice. And just to make sure, here, just to make this okay, so we're going to make sure we've copied the MLS number, right? We've copied the MLS number. That's an important thing. We've copied the MLS number. How do you distinguish the different PED forms? Client go out on multiple times. So I'll answer that question now. You'll see that if you go through my, you know, MGD PED form. Now, in my how to fill out a PED form, I talk about a strategy for doing it. The short answer to your question is you're going to use software called Glide, G-L-I-D-E, right? Which I probably won't have time to get to today. But Glide, when we logged into car.org, you see this here, Glide. You ought to learn more. And Glide is a program that makes it easy to fill out PED forms, as well as the SPQ and the TDS. And on January 14th, you're going to get more Glide capabilities. But if you actually Google searched Glide and PED forms, and by the way, in my video, which is on my YouTube channel, Upthink Real Estate, don't forget to subscribe. On my YouTube channel, my video on how to fill out the PED form, I go through how to use Glide. And yes, I'll go through how to use Glide in the future, but why don't you watch my video? I could use the watch time. I could use it. All right. So, yes, I will go through Glide, especially once they've, added all of the functionality. Glide has the ability to easily fill out forms, sending them and easy to do that. It's also really, really necessary when it comes to doing the transfer disclosure statement or the seller property questionnaire, which is something you would do with a listing. Let me just see what the other questions are. As we begin a new year, we want LoneWolf, somebody Glide ample time opportunities, use Glide directly in transactions. You use, I don't know, there's something about Glide and LoneWolf. There's a way of doing it without using Glide. So I have a video and I will show you how to fill out a P form without using Glide. In fact, I have a video already. If you go to my YouTube channel, Upthink Real Estate, type in PEAD, when you search my channel, you're going to see a recent video on an easy way to fill out P forms, which doesn't include Glide, right? I mean, I think I may mention at the end, but there's a system that doesn't include Glide. But we'll get to that later, right? If that's okay with you guys. Glide is done. I don't know about that. I just don't know, because it seems like CAR is saying that on the 14th of January, digital forms completion and transaction member benefits, including standard forms, beginning January 14th, Glide. So after the 14th, I'll do another session, all right? But I don't know. I do PEDs in PDF and then upload them directly to DocuSign, but I have time tracking them down. All right, let me just do this. Let's say I'm going to do a PED form, all right, just quickly, because it seems like that's what people would like, right? So let me say I'm going to show that. Why not? We're going to show this property, right? So I'm going to create a new offer to purchase. And what I'm going to do, that's the MLS number, but this is the nice home in Morgan Hill, right? I forget the actual address. It's residential. So let's say I'm showing this property. Now, I don't really know yet if we're going to write an offer because, $3 million, we expect a lot, and I got fussy buyers, right? They may not like the view, whatever. So what I've done is I've created a template that is simply called MDG, which is Michael Devlin Group Buyer PEAD form. And I'm going to just launch that. Now, do you know what's in that template? Two things. One is the PED visitor form, and two, my information. That's all that's there. So before I write an offer, I'm not going to create a transaction yet for that property. Did I do this right? Anyhow, but here's the PED form, right? And this looks really, so let me go back to the list. I made a mistake. I'm going to go here to transactions. I was just saying if anybody was paying attention. I knew it didn't look right. So let's say my clients are really interested in this property, right? Rock, they're really interested. We have plans to show it. I might as well do this first. So what I do is I start by creating a new transaction, purchase. We're going to wait for it. This is Rockwood, I don't remember the name, Rockwood Ranch, how about that? Maybe I've done this before, Road, and PEAD, right? Right now, this is all I need to do. It's a residential transaction. Now look over here, you see that little button that says MLS Connect, right? See that little button? Remember, we went through the trouble of putting in our NRDS number and doing all that. So I'm being asked if I can share my templates with the coaching group. The answer is yes. However, it might put my name at the very, very bottom of the thing. We'll have to see, but the answer is yes. It's not that difficult to do, but I'll share. I can export them. We're going to click on MLS Connect. So we're showing Rockwood Ranch Road. And if you click on MLS Connect and it doesn't say an MLS under the MLS name, then you have not set up MLS Connect. properly. It's not connected. But what we're going to do is we're going to paste into that MLS number. I want to include the property photo. I'm going to click on Find. And I'll show you how to, the easiest way to do a PED form, right? There's a picture of it. I don't know why, it doesn't seem to populate anywhere. So now I'm going to scroll down to templates and I'm going to select MDG PED form and I'm going to hit save. So it's created a transaction. What's in this transaction? If I click on parties, buyer one, now I haven't put in my buyer's information yet. One thing that'll save you time is that you put the buyer's information, which you only need their name and their email address. If you've got that in your address book, right? I'm clicking on address book. Notice my choices include Google, Microsoft, and Yahoo, top producer, ZipForms. So let's just, it's taking its time. Let's say that this guy is the buyer, right? He's actually a broker, but why not? Why won't it let me do it? Maybe it is clicking on it. I don't know. I don't know why it's not letting me do it. Billy, how about Billy? All right. Just don't understand why it's doing this. Let's go back here. Way too many. Can the contact sync with your phone? Yes, if you're using Google or whatever. The syncing isn't as good, but let's say my buyer is Billy Buyer. And we need Billy at buyer.com, right? So all we need to fill out is the buyer's name, first and last, and the buyer's email address. You don't need to put in their address. You don't need to add their photo. You don't need their business phone. You don't need their cell phone, right? That's not going anywhere in anything. Notice I could save it as a contact. That's what I want to do. Signing representative means that Billy is not really the buyer. The buyer is a trust. The buyer is an LLC. The buyer is a corporation. We're not going there now. That's another class. I'm going to hit save. So for parties, I have Billy the buyer, right? My buyer. Now notice what's already been imported is the name of the seller. Where did they get that from? Remember, MLS Connect pulled that information in, and sometimes it's got the names wrong, like the last name is first or whatever. You might have to take a look at that. But notice it also has my information because my PED template has the PED form and all of my information as a buyer's agent. My name, my DRE number, my office name, my office DRE number, my email address, it's got all that. So now that I've covered, we're just going to go right across here. The parties, we go to documents. And here's the PED form. And for those of you that have been struggling with the PED form, you're going to owe me $5, right? That'll cover all of the dollar store gift cards I'm going to buy today. Because what I'm about to show you is worth something in terms of reducing hassle and all that. All right. Notice it gives us the opportunity to have multiple addresses. Let's say your buyer is going to look at 4 homes. You could put all of them in, like 4 homes tomorrow. We're going to look at 4. You could put them all in. The advantage of putting them all in is you only have to do 1 PED form. The disadvantage is, well, 2. 1, the listing agents all know all the other properties you're looking at. And the second one, which is more important to me, because I don't really care that they know I'm looking at other homes, is that it makes the automation a little bit harder. So what we're going to do, and if you just click here, it'll default to whatever property you put in an MLS Connect. So we go down here, this is where you'd write in the names of children. So I always ask, who's going to be there and what is their relationship? So this requires a little clicking and typing. This is Billy, not Betty, that's a different buyer. This is me, because I'm the selling agent, so I must be here someplace. And I'm the broker or agent, and my DRE number is, it's probably already figured it out. All right. And then down here, we don't need to, this would be if you have two buyers, you would do first one, second one, and then I would be on the last one, but you know, we're only got Billy. And then the way to make this effective, not time consuming, and you don't have to chase down stuff, is the way we do all of this at the bottom. No, children don't need to sign, but they want to know that they're there, and the parents are going to answer the question, are your kids sick? Do they have COVID? You know, that sort of stuff. All right. So, and then you can read all of this if you want to. So we're ready now. And the thing that makes this effective, less time consuming and not a hassle, is the signing process, right? And so I'm going to save this. We're probably not going to send it to the other agent because, you know, he'll be thinking I'm showing it. But now that we've got the PED form, we go to eSign, right? And all we've got is the PED form, right? Because that's all we're doing. And who's going to sign it? Well, Billy's going to sign it. I'm going to sign it. And then this is where it becomes really useful. Oh, I noticed now, just now, that the listing, that the seller is the listing agent, right? That sometimes makes things easier. I have a listing in, well, anyhow, never mind. So we're going to now, normally, we do not automatically send things to the listing agent to sign, right? I'm just letting you know that, right? Even if you know the listing agent's email address, when you're writing a purchase offer, you're not automatically sending it to the listing agent to sign. We sign it, you and your client sign it, and then we send the PDF to the listing agent, and the listing agent deals with it after that. This is different because we don't want to hassle this. We want it to be an easy turnkey system without us having to do very much work. So we're going to ask the listing agent to not actually sign, but to initial something. And I'll explain why that is going to make things easier. So Billy, the buyer, me, the agent, and the listing agent. That's all we've got. We click on next. Click on next. And in fact, even though I was, you know, pimping Glide a little bit there, I like my system better than their system because of the return thing that I get. You'll see what I mean in a moment. Okay. So the nice thing about digital ink in its various forms is that for most of the ZipForms, it knows exactly where to put everything. This one's a little more complicated. Because look at the signer's initials. Who is going to sign? The answer is every adult is going to sign who's intending to be there that day. So if there's a husband and a wife, they would be initialing down there. And if there's an agent going with them, I would be initialing there too. Normally, agents aren't initialing at the bottom of purchase stuff. So the way we would initial this is, and again, there's, I'll spend more time on this maybe later, but right now this isn't that difficult. We're going to grab the initial, and there is Billy the buyer. Then I go over here and I go down to me, and I grab the initials. Sometimes, usually there's another buyer, but it doesn't really matter. I want a little distance between me and the buyer, so I'm going to do that. Scroll down here. Now we're for signatures. I'm kind of lazy since I'm already got mine there. I would drag the signature and let it go. Now I'm lazy enough sometimes I don't bother to, you know, arrange things. If you're a little more on the obsessive compulsive, you're going to want to drag it over so it's the date is next to the date. All right. Then we're going to go find Billy, and we're going to drag Billy's signature here. And because we're kind of compulsive, we're going to put it there. All right. Now, this is where it becomes a little easier. Notice Notice because we put in the listing agent's information and clicked on their name as a signer, notice that it is put in the listing agent's initials here, right? They put in their initials here. Now, I'm not going to send it to them, but I just want to explain what this is going to do. I hit send. The document goes to Billy the buyer. Billy the buyer knows it's coming. I've explained to him they're not going to let you in unless you do the PED form, right? So Billy on his phone, laptop, tablet, signs, not very difficult. It then comes to me, I'm the next one in the queue. I sign on my phone, tablet, laptop, but instead of saving it and emailing it to the listing agent, that sounds like a lot of hassle. Automatically, ZipForms is going to send the form to the listing agent, right? The listing agent is in the queue. Billy first, me second. What is the listing agent going to be asked to do? Initial that they've gotten the form, right? Initial it. When the listing agent initials it, I'm going to get in my email an email that says, hey, congratulations, your form has been signed. Right now, I could download it. I usually don't, right? Because I don't know, right? If somebody asks me, do you have a PED form on this property? I've got it. It's in my email. It's also in ZipForms in that it's there if I need it, but I don't really, need it, right? Every day you need a new PED form, right? You understand? Because it's asking about, are you sick today? And then tomorrow you need a new PED form. So by making sure that the listing agent is in the signing sequence, I don't have to write the listing agent an email. I don't have to attach a PED form. I don't have to download the PED form to attach it to an email to write it to the listing agent. I let the system take care of all of that for me. And by the way, a lot of times the listing agents don't initial it, right? They just don't, right? Because I don't know, they just don't. I can't, I can't explain it. But many of them do, which means I get it back, and now I got the PED form signed and initialed by everybody. We're not going to actually send that out because, no, I don't want to say it. All right. So that's the easiest way of doing the PED form. You create a template that says PED V is for the visitor, right? And then one last thing, and then we'll go, because people have asked, what about RPR? Why RPR? Why did we do that? And I'm going to be next week. I'm going to be doing another one of these where we're going to be going through the next steps, which are actually getting into writing up the offer and the documents. But let me just explain what's all this about when it comes to RPR. So let me find a listing that's not in our MLS. So I'm going to look for something in Oakland, right? Why not? So I want to find a property for sale in Oakland, California. Let me just see if it'll find me. That's not really what I wanted. It's in Quincy, but let me go back. Let me go back. Come on, back. So, how about Fremont? Are you sure you don't? Do you know where Fremont is? I'm looking for properties for sale. Fremont. All right. So what I'm looking for is a listing not in our MLS. Right. And there we go. So here are a bunch of listings. Here's one for sale. I'll see which MLS it's in. All right. So you can see that this is not in our MLS. And one way you can kind of tell is someplace it's going to tell you what the listing is. And notice here, MLS names, the Contra Costa Association and Bay East and Bridge MLS. That's not our MLS, right? It's not our MLS. So what that means is that if it doesn't have an ML number, it's not in our MLS. MLS Connect will not work. right? So if we're going to write an offer on a property that's not in our MLS, not going to work. And by the way, the won't work. However, notice this little blue button here next to the map, ZipForms. You see that? If you click on that, it's going to allow you to create a transaction based upon RPR. So we're going to click on a new transaction. It's a purchase transaction. We're going to click on OK, go to ZipForms. And now what it's done is it's loading information about that property. It's not as good as MLS Connect, right? Sometimes it doesn't have the listing agent's email and things like that. But how do I automate it a little bit when I can't use MLS Connect? That's why we have RPR, because RPR is like all of the different MLSs. And now that we're here, you notice how it's imported a lot of the information. It knows the APN number, it knows the names of the sellers, but what it did not import was the listing agent's information, right? So we're going to have to add that, I think, because it didn't import it, right? So it's not perfect. We would have to add that. But at least it's given us something, right? It's put in the address, the APN number, the names of the sellers. We could add it. And that's how you start a transaction when MLS Connect doesn't work because it's not in your MLS. All right, I went on a little bit, extra. I'm going to have to charge you guys more for that. I hope you found that helpful, right? There's a video of me on my YouTube channel doing the PED thing, but if you got the idea, I don't actually use the PED form in the transaction so much because you don't know which one they're going to make the offer. I just send PED forms when they say, okay, we want to buy it. Then I apply to that transaction, which was the PED form transaction, the buyer template, and then it adds everything. I'll show you how to do that next week. Next week, I'll show you how to do all that. All right. Hopefully that was fun for you guys, as much fun as it was for me. I hope everybody got a copy of the handout. Be safe out there. I'll see you guys next week, and we'll fill out some more forms. And by the way, let me just one final comment. I believe that the more competent you feel, the more I know that there are real estate agents who don't write offers simply because they don't know how to, right? I'm not kidding, right? They really don't know how to. And so if somebody says, well, could we write an offer right now? They're like, nah, I don't know. Well, maybe tomorrow would be better because they don't know what to do. What I want you is to know what to do so you have the confidence because you have the competence. I've been practicing that line. See you guys later. Bye now.